Hello, I'm Didier Itimana Kanyeshuri, a student at Southern New Hampshire University, where I'm pursuing my Bachelor of Art in Communication Concentration in Business. I'm going to talk about the project called Credibility and Validity. In this project, I'm going to talk or to read, to analyze the three stories. The first news story the first news story called Apple announces iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus, the biggest advancement in iPhone history. The source from the source called Apple Press Info, published on 19th September 2014. The second story is called news. The second news story is called "First Boston Bombing Suspect Dead: Massive Manhunt for Second the White Hat Suspect." From the source SBS News, published on 19th April 2013. The third news story is called Vicious Assault Shakes Texas Town, from the source called the New York Times. Is published on 8th March 2011. By starting from the first story, I'm going to analyze three stories. This point called independent versus self-interested, or to see how if the story is independent or self-interested. From in the first story, I can say that it is self-interested because the Apple company was only machining, publishing its product of iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus. The CEO of the company was the only who was talking, which means they are trying to gain the people's audiences. iPhone 6 comes in gold, silver, or space gray and will be available in the US for a suggested retail price of 199 US dollar for the 16 gigabyte model and 299 US dollar for the 64 gigabyte model, and for the first time a new 128 gigabyte model for 399 US dollar with a 2-year contract. This shows how this company is making its own advertisement. In the second story, within this article, in the second story within this article, there are different reasons why I might say that it is independent. First of all, each and every one who was involved in the article, he or she came up with his or her idea or quote. Boston Policy Commissioner Edward Davis says the suspect is the one seen in the white hat in images of the Boston Marathon. Suspect arrested by the FBI Thursday. Davis say he is armed and dangerous. Again, federal sources believe the suspect, who is still alive, is either wearing an explosive vest or has explosive with him, reports national security correspondent. Moving to the third story. From this article, I cannot say that it is self-interested. However, this article is independent. It is because the people who were involved in the article were mentioned with the court, were mentioned with the were mentioned with the court. Uh, they used as well. For example, 5 suspects are students at Cleveland High School, including 2 members of the basketball team. Another is the 21-year-old son of a school board member. A few of the other have criminal records, from selling drugs to robbery. To robbery, and in one case manslaughter. The suspect range in age from middle schoolers to 27 years old. Again, the people from the article were named, for example, Sheila, with example, Sheila Harrison, a hospital worker, and the affidavits. Moving to the second point called to compare in these three stories, the multiple sources versus one source, to see if the source is multiple source is composed with multiple sources, or if is one source. This movie started from this first story, news story. This is not the multiple sources. It is one source. This is because it is only one person from the article who was mentioning the products of Apple company. That person was Tim Cook. In the second story, this is multiple source because there are different people with what they mentioned. For example, the SBS News revealed its news, the federal sources, Urban, and the police commissioner, Edward Davis. With this, they mentioned their thinking, which means it is multiple sources. Moving to the third story, this source is multiple source because they mention different thoughts from different people. For example, they mentioned what Sheila Harrison said, what a hospital worker said, the affidavit, and the school district security. They mentioned their thoughts from this article, and this article is multiple sources. Moving to the another point to compare if the source is verified or is assets. I can say in this first story that this article is verifies. I mean, this article verifies the information. However, it assets the information. It accepts the information. This is because it might be verifying the information at the moment. They could include other information from different people, but they only use what one person said. The CEO of the company, Tim Cook. The iPhone is the most loved smartphone in the world, with the highest customer satisfaction in the industry, and we are making it much better in every way. Only Apple can combine the best hardware, software, and the services at his unprecedented level, and we think customers are going to love it. In the second story, I can say that this article verifies the information. This is because there are different sources that were mentioned, the people who said them, as well as the citations of their thoughts. These articles author tried to refer to different sources which might make it very trusted. They used the thoughts from Urban, the police commissioner, Edward Davis, federal sources, and the news of the SBS. Moving to the third story, this article is also asserting the information due to the fact that it includes some sources which were not relevant. For example, the author from this article mentioned the thoughts of someone who was saying about the assaults of the young girl. He was not sure about this information, but he included this information in the article. Moving to another point to compare the authority, if the news story is authoritative and informed, or if it is uninformed. Moving to the first story, The information from this article are informed. This is because the CEO of the company is the one who should be trusted to what he or she is revealing about his or her company, because he or she might know more information than others. With this, they mentioned the Apple's products and what its CEO Tim Cook said. So this article is informed. In the second article, this source is informed and authoritative because it has different sources with evidences and relevant information as well. The author referred to different people's thoughts. There are different quotes that mention the credibility of the information. That is what why this source is informed. In the third story, this source is uninformed. Even though the author tried to reach out to different sources, but he also mentioned the thoughts of the people who were talking about the assaults of the girl without the proof. With this article does not contain the relevant, which made it uninformed. To moving to the other point, to compare if the stories are named or if is unnamed. But the first story, this source is named because they mentioned the names of people who were mentioning the credibility of the Apple's product. This was the CEO of the company, Tim Cook. Also, moving to the second story, this article is also named because they mention the names of people who contributed a lot in the information revealed in the article. For example, Urban, the Police Commissioner Edward Davis, Federal Resources, and the news of the SBS. In the third story, this article is also named because the names of people from the article are mentioned well. For example, Sheila Harrison, a hospital worker, the affidavit, and the school district's security. These mentions were how this source is named. Another point, in my point, is this story credible? Why or why not? On this question, I'm going to talk about to answer this question from in the first article. In my opinion, this article is credible, even though they did not mention the other information from different people, but the CEO of the company is the one who can give the right and trusted information about the company. So this article is credible as well. In the second article, in my opinion, there are different reasons why I can say that this article is credible. First of all, the author from this article used different sources with the relevant information about them. Secondly, their quotes were cited in the proper way. Lastly, this story has the date it has been published as well. This fact made it credible. In the third story, the same as the second article, this story also has the well-known author who published it, McKinley Journal. It has also the date of publication. Again, its information from it are relevant. In The second question to compare: what questions are you left with after reading or watching this story? After reading in the first story, after reading and analyzing this story, I still have one question that said, how can we trust the Apple's product at the time they did not include the thoughts of other people? I'm still needing how to try to trust this story if I do not see the ideas or thoughts of other people. In the second article, after reading and analyzing this source, I still have one question to ask. What is the importance of the security guards at the moment they are seeing people busting the bombs around? In the third story, again, I left with the question to ask after reading this article. Is there any idea of increasing the promoters to teach people about the negative consequences of assaults, and whereas the punishment to the people who make it? Uh, Another question, which is the last one: does this article or video qualify as news? Why or why not? In this, I can say that the in the first story or news story, this source cannot be qualified as news because it was only mentioning the advertisement of the Apple's product. Again, it was only one person who made it, Tim Cook. In the second story, the second news story, this source can be considered as news. This is because the author is known. It is known. It has the date of publication. It uses different information from different people, and the images used in it are connected to the contents from it. The last in the last the last news story, which is the third one, I can say that this source can be considered as the news because of different facts. Its authors is not I don't know is its author is known. The date of publication is clear, and the images from it is really connected to what the article itself is saying. With this, the article should be considered as the news. Thank you so much.